Hey everyone, it's Jason with ISA. I'm here with Coach Alan Dunn from LSU. Coach Dunn was a pitching coach of mine in the big leagues with the Orioles back in 2009 through 2012. AD spent 20 years in pro baseball, minor league pitching coordinator, again, big league pitching coach. And for the past 9 years, he's been the pitching coach at LSU. Good friend of mine, one of the best pitching guys I know. And super excited to have you on. So I appreciate you being here, AD.
Oh, Jason, man, my pleasure. And it's always great to get a chance, especially this time of the year, talk a little baseball when usually we'd all be playing. So we've got to scratch that itch, so to speak, and try to get something that's productive that we can use. And so I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, super exciting to have you on here. So one thing that we try to do with all of our guests is kind of keep things relative to all of our athletes. So from 9U all the way to 17U, because again, with LSU being one of the premier programs in the country, I think recruiting that kind of athlete is something that's not super realistic for a lot of our kids. But that being said, I think your insight into the pitching and the recruiting of players is something that can really help. And I think the biggest thing that I like to relay to our families is the importance of the intangibles, of how you carry yourself, those kind of things. So when you look at, you have 4 pitchers that are all very similar. They all have similar stuff. And you're looking, I like all 4 of these guys from LSU. What are some of those things that take you from, I want pitcher A versus pitcher D? What are some of those intangible things that you look for in a player coming to LSU?
Well, I think you just hit on it. Is so important that we try to do as much as we can in recruiting is makeup. And what I mean is those intangibles, those things that when you see a young man toeing that mound, how is he portraying himself? What is his body language? What is his mound presence? How is he interacting with his teammates? How is he interacting with his coach? And so some of that is hard to get just on a one look. So we do a lot of our background with the coaches that we speak to, especially people like yourself, that are in that grind with those guys on a daily basis, and they know their ins and outs and what makes them tick and how do they work, and are they coming to your facility ready to go to work and try to become a better player. Those are things that's hard for a recruiter, whatever level you are, to be able to really get a good grasp on. So we utilize our contacts in getting that aspect. So that's a huge part. And when I say makeup, I'm hitting on all of those things. And so that's something that goes to the forefront for me, because I know that if I have pitcher A and pitcher B, and I know that pitcher A has those intangibles, that he's not going to give in a situation. He's not going to crumble. The pressure's not going to get him. He's going to keep battling regardless. That's the guy I'm going to go to battle with every single time. And his stuff could be a little less than the other guy, but I'm going to take that guy over the guy that maybe have a little better stuff, but I know that his makeup is going to keep him from being successful.
So I think the big phrase you use is mound presence. We talk about that all the time, is the mound presence. I think for most people, they kind of understand what that means. But for our younger kids, when you see a guy with bad mound presence, what are some of those things that you see that kind of stand out in a negative way?
Okay. And I'm going to go a little further on this. One of the things that I tell my guys is I say, listen, fellas, one of the key things that you have to be able to have to be successful as a pitcher is the way you carry yourself on the mound. And what I mean by that is there's a presence about you where it's a very confident look. It's not cocky. It's a confident look. When you toe that mound, everybody in the ballpark knows who's pitching, and there's just a presence that jumps out. And I say, why is that important? Well, one of the things that's important is that team you're facing. When they see a guy that carries himself in a way that, hey, this is my day to pitch, and this is my day to go out after I've worked for 5 or 6 days preparing. This is my day to shine. Okay, that sends something for that other team. But just as important, or probably more important for me, is what it says for those guys that you're playing with on your team. And I tell our guys every time, when you come to the ballpark and it's your day to pitch, and your position players go into the locker room and they look at the lineup and they go down that lineup and they see your name at the bottom and they know that you're pitching and they give it one of these, yes, they got you, go, you got it. But if they go there and they look and they go, oh man, we got that guy going today, the tone is set. You never want your teammates to feel that way about you. And that goes with how you work and how you prepare and how you compete. And that's something that's going to take you to another level. So I really, really believe that that's one of the intangible factors that will separate guys.
I think that when you look at, I ask our younger kids all the time, would you rather face a guy in the mound that's got frumpy shoulders, heads down, looks defeated, or would you rather face a guy that is, like you said, super confident, has a presence to him? And the answer is always, I'd rather face a guy that looks like he's defeated. And the flip side, when you're on defense, would you rather play behind a guy that's got the energy, has that bulldog mentality, or would you rather have the guy that looks like he's already defeated before he throws the first pitch? So I think it sets a tone on both sides. A as the guys facing you, and B as the guys behind you. And I think that it's easy to have that mound presence when things are going good. When you're rolling, you're striking guys out. But how do you handle it when things are going bad? I think that's so important to be able to have that presence when things aren't going good, because as we know, you're always one pitch away, you're always one play away. And if guys behind me feel that, they're going to play that much harder for you too.
No doubt. And you know, the thing about it, when you take a pitcher on a given day, and you know this, Jason, how many times you're going to go out there with your A game? It's not very often, to be honest with you. So you're going to be in that most of the time. You're going to have that where you got your B game, your C game, sometimes your D game. What do? Tell the coach, hey, coach, I don't have my A game. I can't pitch today. No, you go out there and find a way to grind it out. And for me as a coach, when I give the ball to that guy and he toes it up and I go sit down and I have that in my gut, I know that there's nothing he couldn't have done to be prepared, or nothing he could not have done more to be prepared. I know his makeup. I know his how he's going to compete. You know what? I'll take whatever I get, because I'll go to battle with guys like that. And that's a critical thing from a coaching standpoint, is I got to know what I'm going to get every single time. Doesn't mean you got your A game, but I got to know what you're going to bring to the table to keep my team in the game. Critical.
There's guys in the big leagues that were teammates that were very good pitchers. They said, look, if I make 30 starts, 10 starts I'm going to have my A stuff, 10 starts I'm going to have my B, C stuff. There's going to be about 10 where I don't have my best stuff, but the ones that I saw that were really, really good were the ones that on those C and D games were still able to pitch and keep the team in the game. And we haven't told our viewers yet, but we're going to have Aaron Nola on next week, who's an opening day starter for the Phillies, was a top 5 pick and played for you at LSU. And I think it's probably safe to assume that Aaron was one of those guys that when you gave him the ball, he competed and you knew exactly what you're going to get every single time out.
I'm glad that you told me that. And I'm going to give you an example of Aaron from LSU. So Aaron came in as a freshman, highly touted, and he wasn't in our rotation right away. And so we gave him some starts to kind of build him up. Well, we were playing our first SEC weekend. We were playing Mississippi State, and Aaron was our Sunday guy. And this was his first SEC start. And he goes out, and I'm telling you what, he gave up 6 runs before I sat down in the dugout. Okay. I mean, it was one of those that, hey, he was a strike thrower, and they came up, and man, they were swinging as they came out of the dugout. Okay. And it was just boom, 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 boom. Before you know it, we're down 6-0. He hadn't even got 2 outs. So he gets out of that inning, and he comes in the dugout, and I look at him in the face, and he had that look. He says, AD, I got this. I said, that's all I need to know. Well, 6 innings later, you look up, they still had 6 on the board. All right. Now, we lost the game, but you know what? We might have lost that game, but we won the battle because he kept our bullpen at bay. And I think that was a defining moment in his career of, I got to do what I got to do to keep my team in the game. And now Aaron Nola didn't have many of those, to be honest. But that was his makeup. That's who he believed in himself. And And so that's a great example of, hey, just give me what you have, whatever it is. You're going to your team's going to respect you, and you're going to do a lot for the team, even if you don't go 9 innings and pitch a shutout. So
Yeah.
Critical.
And to your point, and from a recruiting standpoint, you want to see those guys in those settings where they're not their best, because I think from your standpoint, you're going to be able to evaluate them at their best and at their worst to give you a really good understanding of what that guy's makeup is. So that's an awesome story. We're super excited to have Aaron on next week. He's a former teammate of mine. One thing I'll say about him is one of the hardest working guys that I've ever been around. Took it very serious, and you can see why he's a frontline starter in the big league. So before we dive into a lot of the pitching stuff, I want to talk about playing catch. I think that people find that to be kind of boring. It's like, what, you're just getting your arm loose, let's just play catch. But for myself and for Eric Cordier, who's on our staff and played in the big leagues as well, we talk about all the time the importance of playing catch and how important it is to play catch the right way, to try to hit a target, simulate your mechanics. What do you expect your guys' catch to look like when you watch your guys out there playing catch?
Well, it's great to hear you say that, Jason, and I know you and your background, and I mean, obviously very successful getting to the big leagues. And I love to hear that when people put an emphasis on throwing programs. It's the most critical thing that pitchers do. Why? Well, we know you can't get on the mound every day and work. Your body just will not allow you to. Your arm is susceptible to injuries. The game is hard in itself. So we have to be efficient. We have to have a plan of what we're doing. So, and it starts with what you're going to do on your daily throwing program. And that's just something that is kind of my pet peeve with my guys is I put so much emphasis on what is going to be our plan of that day. Now I have 20 guys on a given day. And so every person's not going to be on the same plan for me because I have different guys that are going to be relievers, different guys are going to be starters. So I have different programs, but the mindset, the intensity, the focus is going to be the same for every single guy of how we're going to go about doing our throwing program. So I am still a big believer in long throw. I believe that that's a critical part to developing the mechanics of pitching, as well as developing arm strength. And so we go at it with the mindset of each throw that we make, we got a purpose behind it. Okay, we're not just throwing to be throwing. I want every single throw to count. So with that, you have to block out all the noise, so to speak. You've got to block out all the things that can creep into your mind, meaning, hey, you're sitting there next to the guy that's next to you playing catch. All of a sudden, you might get in a conversation that has nothing to do with baseball. You lose your focus. Okay, now you've thrown 10 or 15 pitches, which you have gained nothing from. So I'm a stickler with this. When our guys are playing catch, I'm walking around as a coach, and I feel like that's my time to coach, my time to make sure that the foot works right, make sure that the front shoulder is going towards the target, make sure I'm hitting my release point. And it's not to micromanage. It's just to make sure that if I believe it's important, I feel like that guy that I'm with, he's got to believe it's important. And if your mind wanders, it's now all of a sudden you throw one bad, you throw two bad, you throw three bad, and think about that when you get in a game and you're in a competition. All of a sudden that hitter gets in there, ball one. You follow it up with ball two. You follow it up with ball three. Before you know it, you've created an inning. So what we do on our throwing program, it definitely translates into what you do on the mound. I'm a big, big believer in that.
We tell our kids, like, every throw tells you something. So if you miss when you're playing catch and you miss high and arm side, well, let's just make the adjustment and get a release point out front. Or if you're continually pulling your front side and your ball is getting yanked, like the ability to adjust while you're playing catch, to your point, is going to carry on to the mound and allow you to make those adjustments in the game because you've told yourself over and over and over again, this was an adjustment I had to make. But I think so many kids view catch as I have to get my arm loose and then I'm going to work. But I think the mindset's got to be I'm getting my arm loose and getting prepared. But while I'm doing that, I am also, to your point, making adjustments, feeling for different things to prepare myself to get on the mound. I tell kids, you never see a kid in the cage take a swing bad. So why is it when you play catch? Whenever they're in the cage, they're dialed in and taking their best swings, trying to hit line drives. So when you come in the cage, I never once see you take a 50% swing or swing, half-hearted. So why is it any different than playing catch? And whether you're a pitcher or whether you're an infielder or an outfielder or a catcher, you have to be a good thrower of the baseball and be accurate. So why don't we practice that every single time we make a throw?
I always believe in it's quality over quantity. I'm everyone that I throw. I'd rather see you throw 15 perfectly than 30 where I'm just getting my work in. And takes discipline, and but if you think about the number of times that you play catch, which we do every single day as a pitcher for the most part, okay, so let's say that you do that, and through the course of a season that you play catch 50 times, you play 50 games, you're going to play catch 50 times, and let's say you do that wrong. Think of the things that you're going to have to go back and correct because you've done it incorrectly, and so I think it seems like a minute thing, but it is critical, and it's something that again, it takes discipline to do it right. Well, it's going to take a lot of discipline. You get on that mound, runners at second and third, and nobody out. How are you going to make your pitches? And if you've conditioned yourself mentally and combine that with the physical, you're just giving yourself a chance. It doesn't mean there's guaranteed to happen, but if you don't do it, I guarantee you're not going to have success.
Absolutely. When you think about extension of pitching, some of the drills that you guys do, I know it's hard to obviously we can't demonstrate those, but are there certain drills, certain daily drills you guys seeing doing would be balance point type stuff, directional stuff? Are there things that you try to implement in a daily routine for some of your guys in terms of drills?
Yes, I tell you what, one of the things that we do, and it's a very basic, I think, fundamental drill that we do daily for our guys is we call it the lead up drill. And it's what when our guys, when we first get out to the field to get our throwing program in, we start out with, we break the delivery down into 4 phases. We break it down into the power position, the separation to the power, the balance point, and then put everything together. And why I like to do that is because we do it at a short distance, 45 feet. And I'm trying to get the guys to just put themselves in the position where they're able to feel their body, they're able to feel their arm. And it's more about feel and arm angle and release point than it is velocity. And so I want to get that as we start. So we're trying to get ourselves in that mode of, I'm getting my body prepared to go out and do my long throw program. So we break it down, as I say, into 4 different parts. And we usually do it like the power position is where we're actually getting in our stride position. We put the arm up in the power position, and then we throw the fastball down and away, working on extension, working on angle. And we only do about 8. It's not, and again, it's not velocity. And then we'll take phase 2, which is what we call, and we get it in a stride position, again, with the body almost like we're in a stretch. And now we work on the separating the ball out of the glove to get it to the power position, and then throw the fastball down and away. We throw 8. And then we get into the balance point where they're actually doing to their lift, they're controlling their body, and they're just holding that position just enough to control their body, and then they're going to come out and throw the fastball down and away. So those are the first 3 phases, and then we go back to finish, and we put it all together where they're actually going to a rocker step, a lift, a balance, and then they finish. So that's 8. So you're talking about 32 throws at a small distance, but it's warming the arm up to get into the mechanics of playing catch, something we do every single day. Now, we do that with a home plate, and we do that with their partner down in the catching position, because I want to try to create as many opportunities as I can for a pitcher to visualize what he's going to be doing in a game. And so if he sees that plate, he sees that glove, then it gets him in pitching mode as opposed to throwing mode.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think when we look at our pre-throwing, kind of our build-up process, we do a lot of the same stuff with the power position, checking the front side, getting your arm up, to your point, just creating muscle memory so these guys can feel their body in the right position. So that way, if they don't hit that checkpoint, we're hoping that their mind and their body's going to tell them something wasn't right there. So now we have to go back, and now we can make the adjustment, because to your point, our hope is that we can build that muscle memory so well that when a game comes, we're not thinking about it and we can just react, be athletic, and make it happen. So it's good to hear a lot of the same drills that you're teaching at the highest level we've implemented into our throwing program. But I think a lot of the kids just view it as busy work, where for us, it's like, you guys, this is an extension of your pitching. We have marks on the wall that we want you to try to hit. We're trying to hit spots. So it's refreshing to hear a guy like yourself teaching that, because we know how important it is, but I think as kids get older and they start feeling how their body works and they can start, making adjustments themselves, it becomes that much more important.
Oh, listen, it's, fundamentals of the game of baseball. I don't care if you're 8 years old or 28 years old. Pitching is pitching. All right. And the more that you can control your body, the more that you can consistently hit a release point, the more command you're going to have. The better command you have, the more successful pitcher you're going to be. And hopefully you're going to put yourself in a position to play the game along, because obviously the nuts and bolts of the game of baseball is pitching and defense, and it will continue to be that way for the next 100 years. And so we're looking for guys that we know can execute those pitches in the game. And listen, there is no magic wand to wave over a guy and say, hey, you're a pitcher. It comes from focus, work, having a plan, and then going out and execute it. And I think your point you just made about, hey, when you get in the heat of the battle, I tell our guys this, dude, I don't care if you stand on your head, get those dudes out.
Yeah.
And because you can't think about mechanics when you pitch, it has to happen. And then when you're in the heat of the battle, you just got to let it happen and go out there and make pitches. So the more you're prepared to do that, that old saying, if you're failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And that's exactly the truth. And I know that's an old cliche, but it's true. I believe it.
When you're looking at, I know you're not going to cookie cut any of your guys, and everyone's mechanics are different, but when you look at guys and you're, in a bullpen, you're working with guys mechanically, are there some, non-negotiables in the sense that you say, look, guys, we have to be able to do this with our mechanics? There's certain things that you really focus in on that you want all your guys to be able to do as you look at mechanics?
Yes, obviously we've kind of hit on some of those. I think what's going to make guys successful is obviously you're standing on a 10-inch mound, okay? And we're going to ask those guys to throw 120 pitches to the course of a game. If you don't have body control and if you're not athletic, it's going to be hard to do what I just said, okay? And that's one of the things that pitchers get a bad rap on, is that they go, oh, pitchers aren't athletes. I say, you're crazy. Pitchers are the best athletes, because I just described why you have to be athletic to stand on a 10-inch slope and throw a baseball 90 to 95 miles an hour, spin a breaking ball, have a change up, pitch in, pitch out, pitch up. Okay. If you can't control your body, it's going to be very hard to do that. So I think that's critical. And everything that we can do from a development standpoint of teaching guys to be athletic is really, really something that we need to make sure that we hone in on. So athleticism, I'm a big, big believer in that. And so if I have guys that can do that, the number one thing that obviously a guy has to do for me to pitch at our level, to pitch on my staff, is he has to be able to command his fastball. Okay. If he can't command his fastball, he can't pitch for me. Okay. The game, everybody wants to say, hey, man, he's got a great breaking ball. He's got a great changeup. Hey, that's awesome. But if you can't throw the old number one, you can forget it. And so we spend a lot of time talking about that. We spend a lot of time on our drill work, our mound time, our long throw, being able to consistently command the fastball. And if I have guys that can do that, we're well on our way to being successful. And then if I can get a guy to throw a changeup, have command of a changeup, and that he can do that in any count, that guy can pitch anywhere in the game of baseball. And notice I didn't say, hey, he's got to throw 96. I said if he can command a fastball, whatever it is, and he can throw a changeup, he's going to have some success somewhere. Now, the stuff will determine what level he goes to. But at that level, if his stuff warrants him being at that level and he can do those two things, he can pitch. So Those are two critical things for me. And then if you add in that third pitch, whether it be slider, breaking ball, and you can execute that, now we're talking about a dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going to be successful wherever he goes. So, to getting it down to the basic fundamentals of pitching, which I really want to do. And you alluded to this about, I don't want to make cookie cutter pitchers. Why? Well, I've got a 6'8" pitcher on my staff now, and I got a 5'9" pitcher. Different height, different size, different righty, lefty, different aptitude, different motivation. So I can't put everybody in a box, but I can put everybody in a box in terms of what my core beliefs are and what I know that if you can't do, you can't pitch for me. And if you can't command your fastball, you can't pitch.
I think two things that we really stress when it comes to the mechanics is A, getting the ball out of your glove and have a chance to get your arm up, and B, your direction to the plate. I think guys want to throw hard, so they try to create velocity by, either it's a front side or a head getting pulled. So they want to try to get their arms so fast out front. But I think overall, if we can get our body going the right direction, get the ball out of our glove, we're hoping that the rest of it takes over. So when you think about direction, that's something you guys talk about a lot, is being direct to the plate and staying towards your catcher.
All the time. And you know what? For me, the thing that is a big dictator of that is what your head does. Okay, your head is a big controlling factor of what your body does, because you think about, your head weighs a lot. Okay, some people's heads weigh a lot more than others. Okay, but it's a big factor in every pitcher. Okay, because what your head does, that's going to dictate where your body goes. And what I like to say is my head, my front shoulder, and my back shoulder. There's that triangle, okay? And they all have to be in alignment when you're going to that dish, okay? And just think about it. If you take your head and you pull your head off, that's going to have a lot of dictation of what your front shoulder does. And what ultimately happens is you're going to leave your arm. Two things are either going to happen. You're either going to leave your arm is going to drag through, and you're going to throw up and in, or you're going to try to compensate for it, and you're going to pull the fastball down and away. Those are the two things that are going to happen. So if you can get the feel of everything staying tight and controlled and driving through that catcher, then that's going to bring, and you never even have to worry about what your finish does, because it's going to follow what your front shoulder does and your head. It's going to be right behind it, and it's all going to click up, okay? And that's when we talk about the importance of rhythm and timing and release point. When those three things are synced up, you can command. And when you can command, you can pitch. And so that's a huge factor in being able to locate in and out, up and down, and doing it in a way where you're not having to create it. It just happens because everything is in sync.
Well, I think back to my career when I pitched. When I tried to throw hard, I threw I didn't throw as hard, and my command was worse. When I would just be free and easy, and it'd be a 3-0 count, I'd be like, look, I just got to throw a nice fastball. I'm relaxed. My mechanics are in sync. Those would be some of my best fastballs. And I relate to hitting again. When you grip tight and you try to hit that bomb, you swing hard, swing out of your shoes, pop up, roll over, happen more often than not. So we talk about all the time, but let's make sure our front shoulder is locked in on our catcher. Let's take our chin to our target, make sure our head gets out front, our chest gets down, and our hand should follow, to your point.
It will.
That comes with being not forcing you, trying to make it happen. But it also goes back all the way to the beginning of his talk is, let's do that during catch. So if we can do that during catch, if we can do that all the time during catch, it's going to translate to the mound. But for us, we want guys to throw hard. I love velocity. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. If I can have a guy that throws 100 or a guy that throws 80, I'm taking the 100. But I need a guy that can command the fastball no matter what. And that comes from being able to repeat your mechanics, having it be fundamentally. But all it does with extra velocity is it lets you get away with more mistakes. But if we can have a fastball command, have a good feel for our changeup, to your point, you're going to have great success. I think about Aaron Nola being a top pick, being the guy. When he was with us in AAA, he was fastball and he was changeup, and his breaking ball obviously was good, but his fastball and his changeup were elite, and he didn't really rely on his breaking ball too much. And all of a sudden, towards the end of that year, he started figuring out his breaking ball at a pretty high level. Then he became an all-star in the big league. So I think for the most part, he was pretty predominantly fastball changeup when he had to, and he was one of the best pitchers in college baseball and was a top pick. So the fastball changeup combo to us is so important.
No doubt. And I tell our guys, look, I said, Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say velocity is not critical. It is, because it allows you to make more mistakes. Okay. But again, if you can't command it, you're pitching in bad counts. Uh, you're going to have a pitcher's going to have a really hard time to just be velocity driven and just think I'm going to throw it by everybody, because at higher levels you go. I mean, we're seeing guys at the level now throwing velocities that have never been achieved in the game of baseball. So I want our guys to understand this. I want you to be as aggressive and as you can in throwing the baseball with the least amount of effort that you can propel, if that makes sense. I want your mindset to be, I'm going to let it go, but I'm not going to tense up. I'm going to be loose. I'm going to be relaxed so I can get my arm speed, so I can get my hand speed. And that's what's going to give you the most success in having your best stuff. Talking about velocity, one story that, and I know you'll appreciate this because you played with him, but when I first got to the big leagues as the bullpen coach, we were playing the Tigers. And back in that day, there was a pitcher named Zamaya. I can't remember what his first name was.
Zamaya.
He was one of the first 100 guys. He came out as the first 100-mile-an-hour pitcher. So we were playing them in Baltimore, and Kevin Millar was hitting. Okay, and Kevin Millar was and Kevin obviously a really good player, and the guy threw 100, and Kevin turned on it and hit it in the third base dugout about 6 rows deep. And I mean, just yanked it. And I went, oh my gosh, man, you can't throw it hard enough for these guys, and that became so evident to me of velocity's great, but listen, they can time a freight train coming in there if they see it enough. So you better be. Now, he followed that up with a slider down in a way, and Kevin didn't have much success with it. But that's the point, is you can't. And so you got to have something to go with it. And listen, I want guys to, I want them to increase velocity. I want them to do it the right way, with their long throw program, with their band work, with their weights. And you're building velocity to pitch velocity, not to throw velocity. That's the key.
One thing we talk about all the time is think about your arm being fast. I think when guys try to throw hard and they muscle up, I said, let's think about your arm being loose and being fast. The rest of it can control, but when it's time to go, once you get through that process of your mechanics, then the arm's got to be fast at the end. And that typically, I think, for some level, helps our guys kind of think, okay, I don't have to try to throw hard. I'll think about being fast and whippy. So when you think about your guys in a game mode and things maybe aren't going as well as they'd hoped, guys are on base. As we know, the game speeds up and just things get moving too fast. Are there certain phrases, buzzwords, things that you tell your guys that you've seen work with helping them slow the game down and kind of get back into the rhythm when things aren't going great?
Just something that I try to tell our guys when that's happening. If you can envision that when there's a circle around you, okay, there's a circle, and that when you're in the middle of that circle and things are just going around you and it's like flying by you, okay, and your head is spinning and you feel that's what happens in the course of a game, okay. Mm-hmm. So I try to tell our guys, look, let's take ourselves and let's jump out of that circle and keep everything in front of me, okay. Let's keep what's going on around me and let's take ourselves out of that. How can you do that? Hey, you step off the mound, you take yourself, you look at you look at center field, you look at a sign, you say something that's going to just slow your mind down and take it away from what you feel like is the most critical situation that's going. Remove yourself from that and let's get back. Hey, that deep breath from down in your gut as opposed to those shallow, quick breaths up top. If you've got those breaths where you're really deep as opposed to that's the way you slow your mind down, okay, and not let the situation control you. You control it. Easy said, I know, okay, but you got to practice that. You practice that in your bullpens. You're going in a bullpen. You're about to make that pitch. Take that deep breath, let it out, and get focused on how do you breathe in certain times. And I tell you a way that we talk about our guys and how to help prevent that from not happening is, we try to break each one of our games when we're pitching as a staff. there's four things that we're trying to do game in and game out to help us to be successful. One of the first things that we're trying to do is obviously throw quality strikes. That's number one. You can't throw strikes, you can't pitch. We've already talked about that. Okay. So pitching strikes is critical to slowing the game down. Number two is we try to make the action happen in 4 pitches or less. Okay. Why? Pitching is about putting percentages in your favor. The more pitches a hitter sees, the more percentages goes up in his favor. The less pitches, the less it goes into his favor. Not rocket science. Number 3, we try to stay away from the 3-ball / walks. You give up walks, you give up free runs. Free runs equals losses. And then the fourth thing that we talk about is getting the leadoff hitter out every single inning. You get that leadoff hitter out 60, 70, 80% of the time, you're going to be a winning pitcher. Okay, so those 4 things that we try as a staff, game in and game out. And if you look back at those things, okay, and our strike percentage, we try to talk about 65%. So 65% strikes, 4 or less, staying away from the wall and getting the leadoff hitter out, you'll be in every single baseball game. Therefore, that craziness of the speed up of the game is going to be minimal because you're going to be pitching in counts and hitting situations where there's not a lot of offense going out. And you'll be amazed how that calms you as a pitcher and gives you an opportunity to be successful.
For sure. I think a lot of that, to your point, comes from being prepared. Like you had said, when you put the time in, when you do things right, I think your mind's at ease when you pitch. Because you put the work in and you're in a position where you're going to be successful. At least have a really good chance of doing that. Where I think one thing that we've realized, and I think you see a lot of colleges going to in the pro side, it's changed the importance of workouts, conditioning, that kind of stuff. I know that with the high level programs like LSU, it's a huge part of it. With your pitchers, how important is it that they are putting in the work in the weight room with their training and their conditioning, all that kind of stuff?
Listen, we're one of the things that we're fortunate to be, and is that we have our own strength and conditioning guy, which is a critical thing that, on the cutting edge of new technology and new programs and things like that, which I kind of feel like you guys are too. So you're with your guys and you're going to have that weight room opportunity and you're going to be able to give them a plan. But you know what? The things that I found that you can have the greatest weight room, you can have the greatest tools, you can have all the technology, bells and whistles. But you know what? If you don't have that discipline and that mindset, that willingness to want to get after it, that stuff's not going to help. So it comes from how good do you want to be? Okay, that's the first thing. So that goes back to makeup. How good do you want to be? Do you want to push yourself to the limit to be that dude? Okay, it's going to take that mindset. So we try to create that from the time they arrive on campus, and our strength guy starts developing that. He and I communicate every single day on what's our program, what is it that we're trying to get these guys to do, and it's demanding. We put our guys through the gauntlet of having a workout now, especially in the fall. That's our time to build that base. Kind of what you guys do in your fall. You're building that base. You're building that work ethic. You're building the fundamentals that's going to take them once their season starts. You're going to back off as far as the intensity of the weight program. You're not going to do it. It's just going to be a different phase. So if you haven't built that foundation from the off season, it's not going to be there during the end season. That's where you're going to get hurt. You're going to have guys going the opposite way. And once you once a guy starts trying to play catch up, he's dead in terms of the success that he's going to have, because he's always trying to get to that level that he needs to be, and the game will pass you by. So our program is very, very regimented. It's strict. It's a plan, and we try to do it for each guy, maybe on things that he may need to hone in on to help him to get to that next level. But it's a critical part. It's more today's game. It's more than just, hey, I'm going to show up, I'm going to get my bullpen in, I'm going to go home. No, it is a grind for a year round. And it's just, how bad do you want to be a player? Everybody says they want to, but how bad do you really, really want it? Okay. And when that guy is, we always remember that, there's always somebody over there that's putting that work in that has the same skill that you do. He gonna beat you.
Yep. I know there's obviously exceptions to this, but do you feel like, as a whole, for the most part, there's a correlation between the guys that are putting in the work at the highest level, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be in the workouts, whether it be at practice? Do you find that the guys that are typically the highest level of workers to take care of all the businesses they have to, are those typically your better players?
No doubt, hands down. I mean, it's just like when I go out to recruit, and I've had that background with that coach who's kind of given me a background of that player. It's, hey, his work ethic is off the chart. His focus, his where he wants to get in his baseball career, and I'm hearing those things, and I walk into the ballpark, dude, it hits you in the face. I mean, it really does. And that doesn't mean that, again, when you go watch that guy, and he may have a day where he doesn't have his A game, but you know what? You see those other things, and what that guy told me, and I see that guy out there, and I see him competing with his C game, but I know he's not giving in. I'm going to get in my car, and I'm going to have that gut feel of, I like that dude, and that's the guy that I want to recruit. I mean, dude, it just hits you in the face, and those are things that you can't hide, you can't mask, you can't trick people. It comes out because of the battle, the heat of the battle will rear its head of who the guys really, really are.
Yep. And I guess one of the last things I'll have for you is with the recruiting the way it is, you may only get one chance to see a guy. You may only get a chance. Now, obviously, if you there's a guy you really like, you'll probably find a way to see him again. But how important is it that these guys come to the ballpark every single time they get a chance to compete, ready to go? Because the first impression you have, maybe the last impression. I remember you told me a story about there's a kid that you're recruiting that was a very, very high-level player. It was a guy that you thought for sure you wanted to get. And his first at-bat, he hit a ground ball to short, and he ran a 5-something to first base, and you said you pat yourself and you left. He could have hit 3 homers the rest of the day, and you had never seen him because that first impression of him dogging it was something that you're just not going to tolerate. So how important are the guys that when it's their time to play and they're on the field, that they have to be dialed in, because you never know who's watching?
Listen, man, I couldn't have said it any better. Okay. And I remember when before I went into coaching, I was a scout for one season with the Cubs organization. And I remember watching a game, and an old scout, he came up and we were just talking. I was trying to learn as much as I can. He's been around it. And he told me a point it stuck with me for years. And he would sit in the parking lot, and this is talking about a high school kid, okay? And he would watch the kids because they usually drove their own cars to the field and getting ready for the game. And if he had a player that he was watching, he would watch how that kid drove to the stadium, how he got out of his car, and how he prepared from the time he got out of his car to go into that stadium. Did he get out, shirt tail out, no hat on, just being undisciplined and just getting out in a way that showed him mentally that kid wasn't ready to compete. And he even did it from that point. Then he would watch him. He would watch him when he got in the dugout. How was he interacting with his teammates? How was he interacting when he went down to start his throwing program, or he's getting loose, or whatever it was? And if he saw that guy from point A to point C, and he was taking everything, he said, that guy's on my radar. And now the skill set had to match up and all that. But that's how literally he took it, because those are the things that takes zero skill.
Mm-hmm.
It takes discipline. And the discipline is what separates the discipline, the presence, and all that. That's what separate guys from being guys. Okay. And character will rear its head in adversity. And we all know that this game has so much adversity to it. How are you going to react when that's happening around you? And I'm going to take that guy that's going to pop it in the mouth and say, you know what? I'm going to get after it. I'm not giving in. I'm not giving up. And I'll go to the end of the earth with guys like that.
Last thing I'll have for something fun. Give me your top three in terms of just like peer stuff. The best from your 30 years now of coaching. Give me your top three guys that had just the best peer stuff that you ever saw.
I'm gonna go. The first one, I'm gonna go Nola. I say when I say stuff, I can't say that he had the best stuff because obviously there's guys that had stuff better. But it was the best pitcher that I've ever had, whether it be pro ball, college, is Aaron Nola because of the things that we've talked: makeup, pitchability, confident, all those things. He was the best. Now, prior to that, I had Mark Pryor. Okay. And Mark Pryor came out of USC. He came straight to AA, and I thought Mark Pryor could have went straight to the big leagues. Okay. At that time, I thought he was going to pitch 15 years and be a Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, injuries derailed him. But again, same thing I'm talking about, Aaron. Mark was that guy. Fastball command. You could tell him to throw 20 fastballs down and away. He hit 19 of them. Okay. I mean, that's just the ability that he had. Okay. So I would say those two guys from the stuff pitchability, I would go probably hands down those two guys, and then and I guess my pro ball experience of thinking of stuff guys. Dude, I'm having a hard time. Hey, I'm gonna throw Jason Birkin in there. How about
I'm waiting for it. Come on, man. My 992 was synced. That was nasty.
Hey, listen, and all joking aside, dude. You know that year that you had with us, and was it 9?
10.
9. That the first half you should have been an all-star. Okay, you should have been an all-star, and I said that at the time. I said it's going to be a travesty if this guy doesn't get one of the. I mean, you were dominating at the All-Star break, and you should have had an opportunity to go. And I don't say that to flatter you. I'm saying it's the truth. Watching you go out there at I'm going to give you 6 foot, but I don't quite know that if you're 6 foot. Okay.
Cleats on.
Okay, and with cleats on, and the guys you say 90, 92, 93, angle, pitchability, didn't back off, just the things that we've talked about today, you exude that in the way you competed, and that's why I always have respect for you as a pitcher, and I know what how you teach your guys because I know it's right, and it was fun watching you pitch that year, and they cheated you out of it, man. I'll always go out to say that,
Could change my career forever. You never know.
No doubt, but it was a pleasure to watch you pitch, and I know you're passionate about it, and that's what I love, man. Guys that are passionate about what they do, and you want to compete, and you want to be the best. When you combine all that stuff, success has to follow, and obviously staying healthy is critical, but all that stuff gives you a chance, and that's all we're trying to do. So that's my 3 guys right there.
Awesome. It's a pretty good category to be in. I wish I had the careers and the career earnings that other guys had, but nonetheless, it was again fortunate to play for a long time. And I think back to my career, and I really do think that if I could go back to one point in my career, I'd go back to Clemson and be in college. I think college baseball is just different. I think pro ball is great. I hope everybody has a chance to do it, but there's something about college baseball. It's just different. The team part of it, you're playing for a university, you're playing for each other. So I think that college baseball is certainly way up there in my book. And guys like yourself who are doing it the right way in college is awesome. And I can't thank you enough for being on here. And again, it's always great talking to you, AD. I really appreciate your time.
Always great catching up with you. And please reach out if I can help, and look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully this summer we're going to get this thing going, and hopefully see you guys play and find the next Jason Birkin coming out of
Well, I appreciate it, AD. Thanks a lot. Stay safe, stay healthy, and again, I hope I see you this summer as well.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Take care.
Family. See you, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you.